Today we're going to do a lesson on adding integers. We are going to use a number of strategies. The first one we're going to use is a number line. So basically, you're going to move right when your number is positive, and you will move left on the number line if your number is negative. So we're going to start off with a nice easy one where both numbers are positive. So you're always going to start at 0. So on our number line, we're going to start right here at 0. We're going to move to the right 2 units, 1, 2. And for our second number, we're going to add 4. So we're going to start at the 2, and we're going to go 4 more units. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And you probably knew your answer was 6, and you are correct. So we're starting off with a nice easy problem so that you can get used to how the number line is going to work. So notice we moved right in both cases because our number was positive. So let's try another one. In this one, you can see our first number is negative. So we are supposed to move left when it's negative. So again, we're going to start at 0, and we're going to move left 3 units. So that's 1, 2, 3 to negative 3. Now we're going to add 8 to that. So we're going to move from negative 3, and we're going to move back to the right 8 units. So when I go back to the right, I go back 1, 2, 3 units to get to 0. Then I'm going to go 1 more. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. When I move back 8 units from negative 3, I end up at positive 5, which happens to be my answer. So remember, when you are moving left on the number line, it's because your number was a negative. So we start at 0, we move back to negative 3, then we start at negative 3 and we add positive 8 and move back to the right. And we end up at 5, which is our correct answer. Let's try another one. We're going to start off with positive 4. So we're going to start off at 0. You always want to start at 0. And we're going to move 4 units to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I ended up here at positive 4, but then I need to add negative 7. So at that positive 4, I'm going to move back to the left because this is a negative number, and I'm going to move 7 units. So counting on my number line, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm back to 0, but I've got to keep going. 5, 6, 7. And I end up right at negative 3, which happens to be my correct answer. Negative 6 plus negative 5. So once again, we're going to start here at 0. We're going to move to negative 6. Then we're going to move another negative 5. Now remember, when you are moving negative, you're going to go left. So I'm going 6 units left, and that'll give me to negative 6 right there. But because we have an additional negative 5 units, I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I end up right there at negative 11, which is my correct answer. Notice when the signs are the same, we continue to move in that same direction. Now we're going to try another strategy, and this is integer chips. So we're going to add using integer chips. Now, when you are creating these integer chips on your paper, my suggestion is to use open circles when you're using positive numbers and closed circles when you have negative numbers. I also made this a little bit more entertaining so that we can kind of see a nice visual, and I have used blue chips for positive numbers and red chips for negative numbers. Okay, so if you were unable to print this sheet and you're drawing these in your notebook, you can do exactly the same thing as I've done here, except you'll use open and closed circles. So in our first example, we have 5 plus 3. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blue integer chips representing those 5, that number 5 right there. Over here I have 3 integer chips. They're all positive, and those represent our 3. Now you all know from first and second grade that 5 plus 3 is 8, but I wanted to display these integer chips so that you get used to seeing them. In the next example, we have two negative numbers. Again, if you're using your notebook, you're going to want to draw these so that you have closed circles. So you could do that just by doing these little closed circles right here. So I have 6 of those, and then I'm adding 4 more. Since the signs are all the same, we're going to keep that sign and just add the two numbers. And I have -10. If I counted my integer chips, you would see that I have 10 and they're all negative. Now we're going to do something more interesting. We actually have a positive number 3 and a negative number 6. So again, if you are drawing these in your notebook, you're going to want to make these 3 open circles and these 6 closed circles. Okay? So one thing that I mentioned up here is that a positive and a negative will cancel each other out, and that's true. So this positive one and this negative one, they cancel each other out, and I can just cross it out like this. These two cancel each other out as well as this one. My answer is a -3, and it's what's left after I've paired them all up. So this is a great way to actually learn to add integers, and it's a nice visual. So if you are drawing these and you are making your 3 positive circles to represent your positive numbers, and then you are using these closed circles to represent your negatives, this is what you might have in your notebook. These 3 cancel each other out, and you're left with those 3 negatives. So let's take a look then at some more examples. Let me move down here a little bit. In this one, I have a +5 adding a -2. Once again, these two cancel each other out because we have a positive and a negative that equals 0. So do these two. I'm left with 3 positives, and that is my correct answer. 5 plus -2 is +3. So as we've been doing some of these examples, you might have figured out that when we have the same sign, we are simply just going to add and keep the sign. However, when we have different signs, we actually need to subtract the two numbers. And then we will take the sign of the higher absolute value. So if you did your homework from the weekend, you do know that absolute value is always positive, and it is the distance a number is from 0. So let's take a look at how these rules are going to work here. So down here we have a +5 and a +7. Those two numbers have the same sign. And we set up here that when we have the same sign, we just add the two numbers and keep the sign. So +5 plus +7 is 12, just like it was in first grade. The next two numbers are both negative. Now we didn't have negative numbers in first and second grade, but the rule still applies. If the signs are exactly the same, they're both negative, you add the two numbers together and keep the sign. So this would be -12. Here's where it becomes a bit more challenging because you have to remember the rules, that when the signs are different, like they are here, we have a +17 and a -3, we are going to find the difference by subtracting. So we're going to take 17, take away 3, and we get 14. Now deciding whether the sign is negative or positive is actually quite simple. You're going to take the absolute value of 17, which remember would look like this. The absolute value of 17 is 17. The absolute value of -3 is +3. So this has the higher absolute value, so that means that our answer is going to be positive. So we look at its original sign, and it was positive. So the answer is positive 14. Now the reason why it's not negative is because we have more positives than we do negative, and it has that higher absolute value. Let's try a couple more of these. Here we have 12 plus negative 8. The signs are clearly not the same, so we have to find the difference between the two. 12 take away 8 is 4. Now coming up with what sign it should be, remember, you're going to look up here and we have more positives than we do negatives. So that's my positive answer. You can also look at it as 12 has a higher absolute value than negative 8. Different signs again here with 15 and 6. So let's find the difference between the two numbers. 15 take away 6 is 9. Now we have to decide on the sign. There are more negatives than there are positives, so this has to be a negative answer. In this example, both of the signs are the same, so we can simply just add the two numbers together. 13 plus 4 is 17, and we're going to keep the sign because a negative and a negative would still be that negative. Down here, again, our signs are the same. We have negative 5 plus negative 8. So when we have the same signs, we just add and keep that sign. So that is negative 13. So let me circle that. And this one, we have different signs. So with this particular one, we need to find the difference again. Now you're going to notice I'm putting 78 up on top and 52 down here. That's because I know 17 is larger, or 78 is larger than 52. So I just want to find the difference. So when I do that, I find that that's 26. But to decide on the sign again, I got to go back and see which one I have more of. I have more positives than I do negatives. So I know that I'm going to have a positive answer then. Over here again, I have to find the difference between 38 and 15, and that is going to be 23. Again, checking to see which I have more of. I have fewer positives and I have a lot more negatives. So this is going to be a negative answer, negative 23. Okay, so that's our lesson pretty much on adding integers. If you need to review this video, go ahead and do that. But again, there were 3 different methods. You can use a number line, you can use integer chips, or you can use these rules that we just did. Same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract.